My husband was planning to marry someone else. He used all of the money that I had. He planned and booked his secret wedding hall, but I surprised him on that wedding day. I couldn't stand the thought of being stuck with a man who had shown such disgust at the idea of raising a child alone. His eyes, filled with a sickening glee, betrayed the fact that he had been waiting for this day. This is it, I thought to myself. This is the moment I finally break free. I quickly went to my room and returned with a document. "Here," I said, handing the divorce papers to Austin. "Sign them." His face twisted in shock. "What the hell? What's this all of a sudden?" he yelled. "Well, it was your idea," I said firmly. "Now sign it quickly. I'll submit it tomorrow." His face turned red with anger, his words hitting him hard. "Watch closely," I declared. "I'll make you regret how you've treated and looked down on me all this time." My name is Kayla. I'm a 27-year-old woman, a housewife for the past 3 years. Before that, I worked for a mobile company. I met Austin Walter, my boss, when I was 25. We quickly fell in love and got married. Austin, 4 years older than me, was very reliable, especially when teaching me the ropes of the job as a newcomer. I was incredibly grateful for his clear instructions. We became friends and often went out to dinner. When he asked me out, I was thrilled. I had never dated anyone before. It's embarrassing to admit, but as a cartoon enthusiast, I was always more interested in 3D characters than real men. However, seeing my high school and college classmates getting married, I started to feel the pressure. When I fell in love with Austin, I secretly promised myself it would be my first and last love. So when we started dating and got married a year later, I was overjoyed. I was extremely happy. Austin was good-looking and popular among our female coworkers. I was proud to be his wife, and many congratulated us, saying things like, "Congratulations," or "I'm jealous, but I wish you happiness." I was filled with joy and couldn't imagine what was coming next. "You're quitting your job," Austin said, his voice laced with an unsettling certainty. "You're married to me now, so you'll quit your job, right?" He had informed them yesterday, the day after we registered our marriage, that I would be leaving my position. Austin surprised me with this news. "I've always wanted my wife to focus only on household matters," he added. "Don't worry, I can support both of us with my income." "But this is so sudden," I replied, shocked. Austin had never talked about me quitting my job before our marriage. I had taken my current job based on my father's recommendation, and leaving without notice wouldn't be right. I wanted to explain this, but Austin's eyes silently warned me not to argue. Instinctively, I kept quiet. "I should have told you, but it's done," Austin declared. "Starting tomorrow, you don't need to go to work. I'll handle the handover." The news about starting tomorrow was so abrupt it made me feel dizzy. However, Austin's words were firm. Since he had been my boss, I couldn't oppose him. Even though I had to leave my job without a proper goodbye, I was determined to make our marriage work. Austin had entrusted me with household duties, and I wanted to meet his expectations. I worked hard at household chores, preparing meals, and focusing on Austin's favorites. Although Austin ate without commenting on the taste, I longed for a word of appreciation. After quitting my job, I was no longer recognized by anyone. One day, Austin asked, "Is my jacket clean? I have an important meeting tomorrow." "Yes, of course," I replied. Seeing his domineering side with some old-fashioned views, I reminded myself how lucky I was to have married him and tried to meet his expectations. With no personal income, living normally meant relying on Austin. Our relationship often felt more like that of an employer and housemaid than a husband and wife. Our married life was generally smooth until one day when I fell ill and couldn't get out of bed. I felt very tired and weak. I thought I would catch up on housework the next day. Austin entered the bedroom and angrily asked, "What are you doing? Get up and make some food." He kicked the blanket off me. "I'm sorry, I'm feeling unwell. Can you manage something for yourself today?" I explained, hoping for understanding. Instead of nodding or comforting me, Austin frowned and said, "You don't work yet. You're lying down just because you feel a bit sick. Pathetic. Get up." He kicked me again. In disbelief, I got up from the bed. I never thought he would demand housework from his sick wife. I had never imagined he would be like this before we married. Maybe it was my fault for not seeing it, but it was too much. I found myself doing chores while tears streamed down my face. Several days passed and my health showed no signs of improvement. Then I realized I had missed my period. Panicking, I rushed to the drugstore to buy a pregnancy test. When I tried it, the result was positive. Overjoyed tears flowed naturally, and I decided to share the news with Austin. When you return from work, I thought, lifting my spirits instantly. The day Austin came home after midnight was the day I chose to share the news. However, when he entered, the smell of alcohol made me nauseous. His face was flushed and he staggered as he walked. It was surprising how much he had drunk, especially without notifying me. Even though I had prepared dinner, I wanted to share the news of my pregnancy with Austin quickly. My excited emotions surged and I told my intoxicated husband, "I haven't been to the doctor yet, so it's not confirmed," I began eagerly. However, Austin's face darkened as he responded, "A child? What have you done?" His tone was harsh and unlike anything I'd ever heard before. "I don't want a child. Damn this. This is the worst. If you're going to have it, raise it yourself," he said. His harsh words shocked me. He rudely stripped off his clothes and headed to the bathroom. It was unbelievable. I couldn't understand why he would make such irresponsible comments about our baby instead of being happy. The happiness I had felt moments ago was immediately replaced with deep sorrow. Why would he say such things? He had never mentioned not wanting children before. We hadn't even been using contraception, so I naturally thought we both wanted children. As I hung Austin's jacket and was about to take his shirt to the washroom, I noticed something else. A piece of paper had emerged from the pocket of his dress shirt. I could tell it was a receipt because of its texture. At first I thought it was just a receipt from tonight's gathering and I was about to throw it away, but then I saw the name of the place. "Is this a motel?" My hand holding the receipt trembled. It was indeed a motel. The shock of this discovery weighed heavily on my heart. Why doesn't Austin love me, I thought. Isn't marriage supposed to be between two people who love each other? We've only been married for just over a year. How could this be? I have been lost in imaginary romances for years, never truly engaging in a real relationship. I couldn't accept this harsh reality immediately. However, the idea of Austin cheating began to make sense, and many pieces fell into place. Had Austin been using me from the very beginning of our marriage? Was he genuinely in love with the person he was cheating with, while I was just a convenient servant? All these doubts swirled in my mind. Was that why he reacted so harshly when he learned of my pregnancy? As I grappled with these thoughts, nausea set in, and I became convinced something was wrong. Yes, there's no doubt now, I thought. Perhaps the reason he made me quit my job was that his mistress worked there. Everything seemed to make sense now, as if he had married me for stability and not love. The line between reality and my imagination became blurry. Still, there was no denying the heartless words he had thrown at me after learning about my pregnancy. That day I decided to gather evidence of Austin's infidelity. From then on, his cold behavior towards me was undeniable. It was as if he couldn't forgive me for becoming pregnant. Despite knowing that I was suffering from morning sickness, he would deliberately eat smelly foods near me and nitpick my housework, forcing me to redo tasks. My pregnant body had to endure a lot, and my heart was heavy. Despite this, I continued to investigate his affair. Austin never parted from his cell phone, even taking it with him to the bathroom, making it impossible for me to sneak a peek. When I secretly entered Austin's room, it was neat with nothing incriminating in sight. He was meticulous at work, and his desk was always in perfect order. I realized it would be challenging to catch him off guard directly. I often checked Austin's pockets for evidence, like receipts, but my investigation was difficult. I thought about hiring a detective, but didn't have the money. While I was deep in thought, I received an unexpected phone call from my father. "Hello, it's me, your dad. How are you?" he asked. Surprised by his call, considering his busy schedule, I replied, "Dad, what's going on? Aren't you busy with work?" "My employees have been doing well, so I'm not that busy," he explained. My father, the CEO of a company in France, was always a workaholic. I didn't have many childhood memories of playing with him, but I respected his dedication to his job. His unexpected call left me curious about the purpose. "So, what's happening?" I asked. My father proceeded to reveal a shocking truth. "Is that true?" I asked in disbelief. "Yes, he's not the type to lie. I want you to believe me," my father reassured me. Initially in shock and unable to respond, I felt a mix of anger and frustration as the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. "Thank you, Dad," I told him with gratitude before hanging up the phone. My investigation was finally paying off, but the newfound knowledge also stirred up feelings of anger and frustration due to the ongoing tension between Austin and me. Austin continued to be distant even though I was pregnant. Each time he acted this way, I harbored a deep hatred towards him. Hey, pause for a moment. Would you care to support us? Like this video and subscribe for more. Now let's dive back into the story. Months passed and our relationship remained strained. Eventually, an event occurred that shattered our lives at last. Months pregnant, I was always cautious around Austin, living in constant fear. I tried to avoid him, leading a quiet and stifled life. One day I cooked dinner as usual. When Austin returned home, we sat at the dining table as I quietly ate. Austin suddenly slammed his fork down. "What is this? It's tasteless," he exclaimed, throwing the food I had prepared onto the floor. Baffled by his outburst, I tried to comprehend the situation. The anger at having the meal I had cooked discarded before me began to build up inside. "I've been contemplating this for some time," I said, "but recently you've been complaining about the taste of the meals." Austin criticized my cooking, saying it was tasteless since becoming pregnant. I have been using less seasoning to make healthier meals. This was only temporary until the baby was born. If he found the food bland, he could have added some salt himself. Why did he have to throw the meal on the floor? I was about to complain when Austin sneered and said hurtful words. "I don't want a woman with a belly like a monster. You have to raise the kid by yourself," he said, looking at my swollen belly with malice and a nasty smile. I had always feared this day might come, even though I hoped for a different outcome. Swiftly, I went to my room, retrieved a document, and returned to present it to Austin. "Fine, here are the divorce papers," I said, thrusting the paired documents in front of him. Austin's face twisted in shock. "What the hell? What's this all of a sudden?" he stammered. "Well, it was your idea," I responded. "Now sign it quickly, I'll submit it tomorrow." In reality, I had been contemplating divorce since I began suspecting Austin's infidelity. However, with a child on the way, I was unsure if I could support myself. But now I had a different plan in mind. My resolve seemed to provoke Austin. His face turned red with anger. "Just watch," he threatened. "I will make you regret every moment you looked down on me and controlled me. Do you think you can survive without me? You have a baby to care for and you'll regret it." My determination was unshaken. "I'll be fine," I assured Austin. Perhaps irritated by my confidence, he snatched the divorce papers and began to fill in the blanks. "Here you go," he said. "If this is what you wanted, it's yours." "Thank you," I responded. Austin probably didn't think I would submit the divorce papers, as he handed them over without a fuss. The following day, I promptly submitted the divorce papers and left the house. I knew he would be surprised when he returned from work to find out. After that, I moved to my parents' home, primarily due to my father's return to the UK from France and his suggestion that I stay with them. It was the right decision at the time. I was fed up with my life with Austin and deeply thankful to my father. On the day I left our home, I received 3 calls from Austin, but I ignored all of them. Eventually, he stopped calling. It became clear that I meant very little to him. He was probably content with his mistress and might even remarry soon. I decided to move on from Austin. 5 months passed, and I had a baby who was born safely. I was now living happily with my parents and my baby. While I was enjoying this peaceful life with my family, Austin called again. I ignored his calls at first, but after several persistent attempts, I had no choice but to answer. "Hello, what do you want now?" I said, weary of his tone. "Hey, what's going on? Why were you on that show? And since when were you the daughter of a CEO with millions of dollars? I never knew that." Austin's voice boomed with surprise and anger. It turned out that Austin had seen a TV show that was broadcast after I returned to my family home. I had received a request from a TV station, thanks to my father's role as the CEO of a renowned global tech company. The show featured the lavish lifestyle of the CEO's family. Producers came to our house and filmed our family's lifestyle. During the TV show interview, they discussed our family's wealth, mentioning a rough estimate of $25 million. I never imagined Austin would see that show, but the power of television is truly something. "Oh, by the way," I said, "I didn't tell you that I have an asset of $45 million due to an advanced inheritance. That's why I was able to divorce you." Yes, my father informed me about the inheritance, which gave me the confidence to live comfortably even after divorcing you. Upon hearing this, Austin's reaction was immediate, and he was furious. What? That's dirty. Why didn't you tell me about this before? Half of it is mine, right? Give me the money now, he demanded. I calmly responded. Just as I suspected, after seeing the show, all you could think of was getting money from me. Gifts from parents are not included in property distribution. Are you forgetting your own mistakes? Austin was puzzled and asked, "What are you talking about?" I continued, "I'm tired of your anger, Austin. You called me yourself. You should know you can't blame me for what you did. You cheated, didn't you? With your new wife, who's a junior from your company. You started dating her even before our marriage." Austin was shocked by the information I got from my father. I finally had the upper hand. "Did you think I wouldn't find out?" I asked. "My father has many contacts in your company, and one of them informed me about your affair. I've never mentioned it, but I'll be demanding child support." Austin, still in denial, protested, "Stop kidding. Why should I pay child support? It's all because of you, right? You got pregnant on your own and slacked off with household chores. It's all your fault." Hearing Austin blame me without apologizing for his own mistakes was beyond belief. I couldn't believe I was ever married to someone so lacking in common sense. I truly felt it was the right decision to leave him. "Austin, I'm broke," he pleaded. "My wife spent all the money I earned, and now I'm in debt." Hearing Austin's painful excuse, I went from anger to sheer disbelief. I never wanted to deal with such an unreasonable person again. With that thought in mind, I firmly gripped my phone. "What are you talking about? Do you even realize how ridiculous you sound? I never want to deal with you ever again. I'll have my lawyer handle the matter of child support. Never call me again, and you will not see the child anymore. Goodbye." "Hey, wait," he called out, but I quickly hung up the phone. Afterward, I blocked Austin's number and took a deep breath. It's over now, right? I won't get any more calls from Austin. I no longer want him disrupting my peaceful life. Just then, I heard my baby crying from the other room and rushed to soothe the baby. It turned out that he began paying child support every month, according to a former colleague. Austin claimed that the woman he remarried was quite a spendthrift, and he had to cover his current living expenses with debt. It seemed that because of these circumstances, Austin had tried to get a share of my inheritance by calling me. However, Austin didn't get a penny from me. Now, his expenses were greater than his income, and he was struggling. Either he felt things were falling apart, or he couldn't stand being looked down upon by his colleagues. What's more, he made the mistake of starting his job search only after leaving his current company. This resulted in him being forced into a life of poverty. Hearing this from a colleague didn't move me at all. I thought he deserved all the hardships. The harsh words and cold demeanor he showed me will never fade from my memory. I sincerely hope he gets what he deserves. Meanwhile, I'm enjoying being a parent with the help of my parents. My baby is growing up healthy and happy. I feel supported and loved in my family's home, and I no longer have to worry about financial issues. My father, who's a successful CEO, mentioned that he wanted to pass on the company to me. This news was both surprising and motivating. I realized that I needed to prepare myself for the responsibilities that would come with running a company. My father has always been a hardworking man, and I wanted to make him proud. So I started learning more about the business, taking on small tasks to understand how things work. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to succeed. Living with my parents has given me a chance to rebuild my life. I feel more confident and ready to face the future. My father's faith in me has inspired me to aim high. He believes in my abilities, and that belief has become a source of strength for me. Every day, I work on balancing my role as a mother and my preparations to take over the company. It's challenging, but I find joy in every moment. My baby's laughter and my parents' support keep me going. I am grateful for this second chance at life, away from the toxic relationship with Austin. I often reflect on my past with him. His betrayal and cruelty hurt me deeply, but they also taught me valuable lessons about strength and self-worth. I have grown from that experience and emerged stronger. I am now focused on building a bright future for myself and my child. The pain of the past is slowly fading, replaced by the hope and excitement of what lies ahead. I am determined to create a happy and stable life for my child, with my family by my side. I know I can achieve anything I set my mind to. Looking back, I see that leaving Austin was the best decision I ever made. It allowed me to find myself again and discover my true potential. I am no longer the scared, uncertain person I once was. I am a strong, capable woman, ready to take on the world. In the end, I hope Austin realizes the consequences of his actions. As for me, I will continue to move forward, embracing the opportunities that come my way and making the most of every day. I am ready for whatever the future holds and confident in my ability to overcome any challenge. After experiencing the full journey of our story, we'd love to hear your thoughts. How did the story resonate with you? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay blessed. Thank you for watching and see you in the next story.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look, "To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day." Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. "So, you all get a chance." As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. "Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them." It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike! What have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.